Hello again, and welcome to Resilient Foundations. I'm Rebecca Plantz, and today I have Doug Hall joining me again, and we're going to talk today about some more real life projects. Today, we're going to focus on something that actually didn't have a lot of highlights. It had a lot of lowlights. I'll just give you a quick overview of what the scope of this is. It was a project called Project Jaguar, and we were replacing some proprietary, very mission critical security system with a package solution that was new on the market. And there was a business driver for this, which was the skill set that we were needing to maintain this package solution was becoming limited in the general talent marketplace. And it was reliance on really one of the final people left on the team who had been involved in building this highly customized platform. So that reliance on a single subject matter expert was starting to become a resiliency problem, in fact. And it had a lot of moving parts, like brand new technology, relational databases that had to be replaced with a brand new type of data technology. And it was a short implementation window as usual. A lot of what we were hearing was it'll be easy and you need to get it done this year because I have a limited budget from the executive within the year. So there was a lot of moving parts to this. But in general, I think Doug and I would probably say this was one of our more difficult projects. We got a lot done, but should we have done this project? And it had probably a lot more lowlights to the implementation of this than highlights. And with that,
Challenges.
Doug is a many year proven technologist. He's really one of the go-to people I've ever worked with on program and project management. So for this one to not have come across the line the way we would have liked has nothing to do with the leadership at the program project manager, but we did get a lot of learning out of it, which
Oh,
is always the
fine.
goal, getting learning out of it. So with that, Doug, let's take your top
It
three
was it was it
lowlights.
was it was Doug's like first plane crash. I learned a lot. The big three, I have to say, was like you had referred to. This was our system. Was the proprietary system was so locked down. It was so good, and it delivered everything the business needed. So number one, where we were replacing a proprietary system that met the needs of just about every application and could be customizable at our demand, replacing it with an off-the-shelf package. And what that comes with is you have to pound your business to fit that technology. That's what we were finding out. That was not like easy. We had a lot of resistance from the business. We can talk through that later. That was number one. Two, we were not only going from a relational database to these object-oriented lightweight directory LDAP. That was a new construct completely. So again on top of that front end off the shelf. We're now having to really redo all of our databases to meet these object oriented categories, and I can't remember what the name of it was, libraries. But that turned out to be a massive issue, and we'll get to that in a bit. And the third one, I think, is always on challenging projects. If you don't have good requirements out of the box, you are swimming in bad waters. All the constraints you said at the beginning of this led to, oh, this is easy. Let's just get it in. It's not, and I think I remember this. Please tell me if I'm wrong. This is a technology implementation. It doesn't impact anybody. Yeah, okay, that was number four. Complete lie. Um, so we didn't have requirements, and we were moving to an agile methodology. That was the newest latest, marketing methodology. We were moving from waterfall, which was well tested, into a new world, and that tend to lean to no requirements. So I think those are like three and three quarters
Yeah, I think
problems.
I think some of the learnings for me around this one, low light wise, were it's easy to say it's just a technology implementation, and the vendors will come in and tell you they can meet all your requirements because all you needed was a single sign on. And yes, this great new technology, it's very easy to manage because it's called Active Directory, and the application provides all your authentication and authorization needs. But to that point of the customization that had been done for this business because of the type of customers it had and the regulatory oversight and needs they had. I don't even think the vendor really understood it, and it was still a
No.
pretty new vendor. So one of the things I learned on this as a low light was, can you conform the business to what the vendor can do out of the box and get the business to change? Or can you get the vendor to meet your very customized requirements without putting them out of business?
And I've had a couple of projects prior to this that vendor question, and I will say this again stereotypically that no. I was at a credit card company that we moved at the time 16 million accounts to their platform because we had just acquired another bank. We got in there and they were saying, well, and we would say we need this functionality. Well, we've got to ask all of our other clients who had like maybe 500,000 accounts. We're like, timeout. No, we're a little bigger than that. So that is always a major challenge. And they did not play well here. But I think we learned a big reason, and I thought maybe I that was an awakening for me was the one big app that we all know what the name of it was had a much bigger bat than we thought because they walked in and just hit me in the back of the head with, "We ain't doing this until you do this," and wait. And I thought, "Oh, you'll do it," and well, no, that was a fight that we did not remotely see,
Yeah,
and
so
we
some of
learned
the
how much power they actually have.
right. And I think that's a great learning right there, which is when you're talking about leadership of things that who are your internal stakeholders? Do you know who's going to advocate for you to do this big
Yeah.
initiative or the people who are going to fight to the bitter end? And maybe they have reason to fight to the bitter end and say no. And who has the political influence inside of the organization to say yes or no? This one actually had a lot, if I recall, a lot of executive oversight too. I remember having to do many status reports in front of the executive vice president on where this
Well,
particular initiative was.
yeah, but nobody. See, this is one of the lessons learned was number one of the biggest lies, besides the check is in the mail, is this is a technology implementation and no impact. It We kind of had to face the business without that executive saying you will do this because there was nobody that was countering that application, that business unit, because they were right. That was the bread and butter, and the amount of changes we were asking and what stuff we were taking away was too big, and there was no way we would go back to the company and say, "Can you do this?" And they would go, "No." And so I constantly had to slink. We had to slink back into that business forum and just go, "No, we're still doing this because it's a technology thing. We need to do it." And they were like, "No."
And at the
So
end result of this, the custom system stayed in place. We basically just
yeah,
put the vendor product on top of it.
yeah.
And it was actually the right thing to do in the end. Costs a lot more money to do that way.
Well, yeah, and another thing that we found out was when you move from the relational database, which have all those joins and it's very flexible for what we needed it to do given what it was doing. Then you move to a new lightweight directory infrastructure. You have to now start doing more dissection and more definition of what is a customer, what's included in that, what is the address, how do we label these things, and how it was a nightmare because it was new and everybody had an opinion, and some of those opinions were wrong, some of them didn't make sense, and I will say this, a great thing about the brilliant minds we had, it's a double-edged sword. We had great news, we had brilliant minds, brilliant tech. The bad news is we had brilliant minds and brilliant tech because wow, uh, it was tough getting an idea out of the first implement because people were shooting these things down like it was their job. Oh, it was a job, but I mean, that was the most. We could not even name the customer module because I mean there were just all kinds of we can't name it this because of that, and it just we just kept spinning, spinning. spending over the stupidest, like you would think it's an address. Why can't we just call it CN equals address or whatever that is? No, it was crazy. I remember wasting a lot of time on that. And again, emerging technologies, we were taking some educated guesses on how it really worked. So
Yeah, and I think there was a lesson learned too of the people closest to the technology and the implementation of the technology. They saw all of the details that were going to cause problems with this implementation. And
yeah.
getting those up to the level of decision makers that were saying, hey, this will be easy. This is brand new technology. We should be going this direction. And it's an architect level conversation at a whiteboard level. But the whiteboard of the picture, the diagram that I can paint, can it actually be executed when you get down to the fine details? And bringing those viewpoints together was very difficult in my recollection.
Well, and yeah, you brought up a great point. Concept and theory, and that design, and then you move that to let's plug it in and see what the hell happens. That was it. That was a whole nother, can of alligators. And I will say this because I'm old school, and you know me. If you don't have requirements, you're failing. And trying to get requirements out of the group that knew, like one we had the proprietary system with most knowledge from a very technical person, trying to get requirements on how it worked. What we need to bring forward was challenging, but the other side, new tech, did not want to participate. Thought it was agile meant we had one sentence and that was it. And I all this is probably one of my office space moments. The architect came in and just started shooting down like why are my developers here, why are my engineers in here, and I ended up throwing him out of the meeting. I almost got a bouncer like get out, because I we needed requirements because we're spending like what do we actually need to deliver. That's when we started to get a little bit of headwind, I mean a little bit of momentum. What are we supposed to deliver? Let's sit down and define that because we were too busy. We immediately, because of agile, because of new tech, we dove right into the design, and setting everything
Well,
up
and
without even understanding what
honestly,
we this system is to do.
Agile a lot in that period of time too was like just go right into build, right?
Yeah,
Throw stuff against the wall,
yeah,
see what works. Yeah, okay, in theory, yes. With complexity of replacing old technology that was very hardened and very high performing, yes, custom, but very hardened and high performing, to come in and say, okay, we're just going to start with a whiteboard again was very, very difficult.
yeah, yeah.
So to
And
reverse engineer that,
yeah, and like your most expensive resourcing implement is in build and test because you've got all and so we were agile gave the technicians the green light in their mind to just jump right in to start sticking pieces together, and it wasn't. And agile was not meant for that, but unfortunately a lot of shops still today, that's how they implement. We don't need business requirements, we just have the technicians write it. No.
I can count a
uh,
lot of crises that were actually run because of we're just going to go do MVPs. Okay, great.
yeah.
When you got legacy systems that you have to integrate or change, or yeah, not quite so easy. I think that's a big
We
learning
should
is,
do a podcast on crisis learning, like crisis, like what we learned from all these PXs and P0s
yeah.
incidents. Because wow, yeah, you get to see what your system's really about when those things go off at three in
Yeah, what was lacking in requirements and testing usually
the morning.
and change management. So from a leadership standpoint, this project I think did highlight a number of things also around what change management needs to look like. Because
Yeah,
it's one thing to come in with the picture on the whiteboard. It's another thing to walk people through what does this really mean to me? What's in it for me? What is the benefit to customers and the internal workings of the company? But also what is it really going to take in the change itself to execute and be successful in this. I remember one moment when I was doing one of the many executive vice president updates on this project, and it was getting towards like we have to really start delivering something now and showing we're going to make it before, because at that time we still a lot of concepts around you have a freeze period and a moratorium so you don't disrupt your holiday periods. And I remember sitting in front of the, I was in the executives meeting room around the round table, and she looked at me, she said, I want you to sit straight across from me. And I was like, well, why? And she said, because I'll know if you're telling me what you were told to tell me by your leader, or if you're actually telling me what you really believe. Apparently, I do not have that good of a poker face.
I beg to differ, at least because I saw you to those. We won't use names, but a certain person that we worked with, I knew what he was arguing was adamantly opposed by Rebecca, and I'm on the side of this watching this interaction, and I saw nothing from Rebecca but knowing right under her skin she was torturing and throwing said person off the building 5, 6 times. It was impressive. I never.
Well,
I don't think Jan, not unless she has like some psychic vampire hypnotism thingy that she could get
well,
anything from you.
I think there's a principle of leadership for me, which is you have to be in integrity and you have to tell the truth. Right? I've done that a number of
Yeah.
times where it's been like, yeah, it's not necessarily what you want to, what I think you want to hear, but I better tell you the truth, because if I don't tell you the truth, you don't actually know what the problems are going to be and what risk you're taking. And you as a leader, ultimately, you're the one that's going to be accountable for this and the money that was spent. And so I always had that in front of doing a status report. I always had that feeling of, boy, I don't want to leave anybody hang out to dry because I wasn't completely honest and giving, delivering with integrity. So that was always a tug of war for me. But I think maybe the condition you're talking about was me just being, I've got to maintain my composure in front of the team.
Yeah.
Right.
I was waiting for you to jump over it.
Because there's a whole team here that if I respond to that in a certain
Yeah.
way, right, everybody else is going to bail on this project because they would have been like, oh, that person's actually not on
Yeah, they're
board
losing it.
either.
Yeah, they're losing it. I will tell you, I learned that lesson as well early in my career. Thank, the universe for that was I was in front of a bunch of VPs and people that were on this project developing this system knew what they were doing, but it changed so rapidly. It was so big. I got a little too cocky and somebody asked a question and I said, yeah, no, it works this way. It didn't. I took a guess, and it unleashed probably 45 minutes of me taking headshots and body shots from all these. I mean, when you open up that can, it was a tsunami and it couldn't stop. And I was like Captain America trying to, and my boss came up afterwards, put his arm around me, and he said, Doug, I believe what you meant to say was, I don't know the answer to that. I will get back to you as soon as possible. And that's when I was like, don't ever make stuff up. Just be honest right there. Cause wow, I took a beating. And I'm like, that's something you don't forget. And I was like, why did I do that? Nobody's going to say you didn't know it. So you're doing a bad job. They always will help you. It's amazing. And they give you slack as opposed to
Yeah, I
just
mean, I think
unleashing hell.
totally. And I do think it's that fine line of knowing who's the audience in front of me. What is my job right now as a leader? Is my job right now as a leader to basically make sure that we're in integrity and we are telling the truth without like totally stepping on every political landmine that exists in this
Yeah.
particular situation?
Without running the Hindenburg into the flaming,
Exactly.
volcano, you
Yeah.
have to be truthful and paint that picture.
And sometimes you have to, how am I going to say this? Like when you think about, I'm in this moment, I can't predict all the landmines that might exist in this moment. So being able to be sensitive to the climate I'm in and read people in the room and say, okay, this is not going to go over well. I have to couch it in this way, but I still have to tell the truth. Or I
And
can be completely open and honest here because I'm in that kind of a safe environment and knowing what is the safety of the environment that I'm in at any given moment because it could totally change where the direction of things go for the team and for
why
yourself.
I had a VP tell me, he looked at me and he was like, Doug, I could hug you and kiss you and strangle you all in the same second because of that honesty. You have to, you have to bring it out. That risk assessment, like we have these unknowns, and that's what you taught me as well, is to pull those out. Here are the risks that we're probably going to hit. Here are the ones that I don't know about, but we need to look at them, and here's what that will trigger. That transparency is probably the most important thing that I ever like kept going because I don't want to be called into somebody's office and say you didn't warn us, you didn't tell us, you didn't even give us a hint of that. And I will never ever, if there's something I just couldn't possibly know, that happens, and there's nobody going to crucify you. If there are, then who cares about that person
It's
anyway.
about trust.
But
At the end of the
yeah,
day, it's about building trust. Is my executive going to trust me with anything big in the future because I sandbagged them? I didn't tell them enough information. And sometimes it's the presentation of the information that matters, but you have to give it to them. You just have to find the best way
yeah.
to present it to them so they can make an informed decision because it's them on the line ultimately. But in the future, are they going to trust me or not?
Yeah, and it builds confidence in you and the project and in what you're putting together when you say, here are the things that I don't care if it's 1%, you want to know about it in case Joe person trips over the server wire and pulls out the server while we're doing the conversion. And those were so I actually
That
had that
actually has
risk because
happened
we
before, real
yeah
life.
you I remember one of our test environment servers was under somebody's desk. Yeah. So yeah, and those things, it's funny. You feel unburdened too when you communicate those because it builds confidence in you uh, for them understanding that Doug and Rebecca are looking at every single thing as absurd as they are. I feel better about this. So when you say we're going to make target or we need another week or whatever, they understand you're not just fluffing. Like certain developers that used to give me a timeline of a year. Come on, I used to code. I know, stop it. Uh, why not try? But it's amazing the details of being very transparent is the greatest thing you can do. Because if you lie or hide something, it's gonna hurt.
Well,
You're gonna
I
get
think
caught.
I think the other thing is when you're representing a team. This was always the other thing that was in the back of my mind was I don't want to sandbag the executive. I don't want to put them in a situation where they end up failing because we didn't give them transparency.
Yeah.
The other piece of that for me is, am I properly representing the concerns of the team? Because I'm the one sitting in front of the executive and saying, hey, this is the risk we have. This is the issue we have. This is where we really are with status. Here's what it's going to take in order to make the date, make the budget, whatever that problem is that we have to, your cost quality schedule trade off decision, and usually you only get two out of those three, right? Um,
Yeah.
so you're always trying to trade off. Am I going to hit my date? Am I going to hit my scope? Am I going to hit my cost? Am I going to hit my quality levels? Like what am I going to trade off if I can't give you all of it? But the team always has feedback to you, and when they feel like you go in and at least get the best that you can for on their behalf because they ultimately have to deliver on it. And if they don't feel like they can deliver on it and they didn't have input into that, it makes it really hard for them to continue to be motivated.
Well, and that's I think you hit. We always had great teams, but it wasn't just organically. We had to work at it. For the team to participate fully and unfiltered and unafraid, you had to create that environment of any idea is great because we're in uncharted territories. I don't care what you're bringing up. We will walk through it and we will get to the bottom if it works or not, or if it's viable to even pursue, and be a thick skinned enough to know that you might get like slapped around a little bit. And it's not personal. And those were the things that we built teams with. It's like, this is business, it's not personal. Please don't assume that anybody attacking your idea is attacking you. And so you keep fostering that. And we laughed a lot. And it's probably one of the best things that held this team together because people were brilliant. They had opinions and we were passionate. And we allowed each other to, even in the most intense meetings, we allowed each other to, be able to rip on somebody and smile at the end, and everybody would walk out and let's go get a beer. And they were heated meetings in this project that had we not set that precedent and everybody felt comfortable because everybody was really good friends afterwards, but that didn't get in the way of a good row. I will tell you what, these guys are so much fun, guys and gals. Witty, could take a punch, could give a punch, and they were good at it. And it was pretty hilarious. Some of the lines that were flying around once in a while, but it helped. It really did because nobody walked out of there angry at a person or not participating or I'm quitting. It was always okay. I lost that one. Here's why. So and that was one of the good points of that meeting was we had a lot of fun and a lot of stress, but
Yeah.
we kind of had some fun with each other, and so that was a good part.
And consensus building is really what we had to do a lot of, right? To basically try and bridge between all the different people, brilliant people, all of their different ideas and concerns, in particular concerns. So bridging that and building consensus, it's not about who's right. It's about trying to
Yeah,
find something that we can make the right level of trade-offs for the business, for the customer, for the teams, and at the same time get those trade-offs in a way that nobody's probably going to get everything they want. It's a negotiation, and consensus is, can I live with it? So if I can
yeah,
live with it, then I can deliver it.
and this team had enough confidence in themselves, and there was no job threat on the line. There was no so if you presented, that's what I loved. Everybody was passionate and argued their point, but if something came along that was actually better or smarter, or they were not hesitant. Like I didn't think of that. That's a pretty good idea and we would adopt it. So it was cool to watch all of that take place. And somebody would that little cartoon light go bink, and you're like, oh, that's right, that's a good point. And we were able to move through all of this um, based on that. And so we got there slowly, but that whole this is easy off the shelf. We just plug it in and it works. Yeah, no, that's not that never happens. Oh my God. Yeah. It's never trust that line.
So as a leader, I think there's a couple points there. One is don't be easily offended, right?
No.
Be able to know that you're going to be wrong at times and you're not going to have all the answers, and it's okay that you don't, because that's why you have a team. It's everyone has input and opinions and ideas, and they all have value. And so not being the person that has to always be right or have all the answers is really important.
Yeah, it is. And like I like to think of myself pretty high IQ, but I'm smart enough to realize I don't know everything about everything. And you bring in good people and you listen to them and you get them to talk through it and you work through it without personal like, you know, ownership of something. Let it go. It's not, you don't own it. So if argue if you think it's right, but know that it's not, adopt the best idea. And that's how we built those good teams. I didn't have it all, but if I believed in something, I would argue it. You would need to beat my argument. And it once that happened, great, okay. I didn't like lose points. I didn't lose salary, or if I was wrong or there was a better idea. Knowing that's how we go. That's what led to all these successes, and that's what I loved about the team. You keep instilling that. Like I said, that doesn't just happen. You have to coax it up. You have to continue to live that and show that that's exactly how you're going to run this project. Nobody gets laughed at for bringing anything
What I
up. We
found
might,
interesting on this project was, despite all of the challenges and all of the issues we were running into and the long days and the long hours, was people stayed committed and we actually delivered it. It ultimately, the reason it was a low light project in my history, it was because the solution didn't meet the business needs. It did get like it did have another iteration to it where the next version of that was starting to be able to fit
Right.
but the initial implementation as envisioned by the architects did not meet the business needs. And to that, it was a failure. The
Oh,
company spent money on something that didn't meet the business needs, which technology ultimately exists to serve the business needs. So when someone says it's just a technology implementation, never. Because at the end of the day, it better meet customer and business needs. And if it
yeah.
doesn't, have you delivered anything of value? What does value mean to you? It's never just technology. Technology in and of itself does not have
No.
value.
And
It
just
needs to
because it's
meet something.
shiny and new doesn't
Yeah,
mean it works for you. Is
bright,
that a
shiny
slogan?
objects.
Just
Yeah, bright,
because it's
shiny
bright and
objects.
shiny for you doesn't mean it's right for you. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Right. So when you think about that, it's, yes, something got delivered. The team actually bent over backwards to get what was envisioned delivered and all the hurdles that it required to do that. If it didn't meet the business needs, it really wasn't the team that delivered something bad. It was the vision of
No.
it was not the right for the company. So we're always balancing that. Yes, you have to take risks. You have to try things. You have to try and advance what you're doing for the business in terms of technology. At the end of the day, you can't always be right. The vision may
Right.
not actually meet the needs. How do you iterate out of that then in the next version, which the company did? That new product actually stayed there for quite a while, and it was
Yeah.
built on and evolved. But you're going to have failure in your career. I think that's one of the main
Well,
things.
we had a big buffet style you can eat plate in front of us, and we ended up, just doing a little nibble on a chicken wing and that because we you
That's a
couldn't.
great analogy.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
you
had the
couldn't.
whole buffet with just a little nibble on it.
Yeah, I
And that was
just
all
keep
the
wiggling. Well, we
appetite the
can't do that.
company had. Yeah, once the company saw what was really happening, it was like the business partners and the tech partners were like, you can't do this whole thing.
Yeah, let's just. It's kind of like we just fenced it. And just do that. We'll give you this. You can play with this because it. Well, what we also found out once we did get it working and the environment was the traffic of our current system was just they couldn't even come close to anything in the pristine environment that they had. They couldn't keep up. So that was another learning was we didn't new system, new all that. We just didn't. We just underestimated or didn't even. We didn't have a chance. I don't think to test the speed and the reliability and the concurrent user thing. It was again all these learning experiences that you look back and say, well, we were forced to start here using this, thus, and so. I don't think now we could have done anything other than what we did. I mean, because really we had a dream team. We had
Yes,
the
yes,
best
yeah.
of in every position. It was just too much. We turned on 18 fire hoses and had a little funnel that we tried to squeeze it into. And
And I think at
had
the
we
end of the
had like
day,
5 years, we could have done it, but
well,
not 6 months. That was
but also I think the other thing was learning on that too, going back to the vendor. If we had forced the vendor to customize to the extent this company needed it to customize, the vendor would have gone out of business because there would have been no other customer that needed the same type of requirements, or they would have been very few and far between. So that was what big learning for me was, yes, you want your vendor to meet your needs. However, if that vendor is too small, they customize to you too
yeah,
much, they go out of business. And so then what do you really have as a company? You have a vendor that goes out of business and now they're in your environment.
right.
So
It,
you got to do what's
it,
right for
it,
the vendor too.
yeah, it was why I can remember in the back of my head. I don't know if I said it out loud, but what are we doing? Why are we trying to tell the business what to do when obviously that's our bread and butter? And we're not even like if we had 80% of the stuff, we could have worked through it, but we didn't do our due diligence at the front of that to say this is even remotely. It was just I don't know. You had access to that level, that C-suite level. I don't know why we got the off the shelf is better. I think that business goes through that machination of proprietary is great because it delivers everything. Then we fade to it's too much support. We can use this off the shelf. and it just keeps going up. It just keeps revolving. It's kind of funny to watch that happen. I've seen it in a number of companies now. For the people listening, I think that product that we tried to replace, I know I put, as I would say, 4 or 5 shots to the head of this thing trying to kill it. It's still there because it
It's
was
still
in
there.
the end, it
It
was a
actually,
brilliant system.
yeah, it evolved. Yeah, it evolved. I think that that is the buy versus build conversation that
Yeah,
companies have to have on a regular basis is what is our technology strategy? Are we going to buy? Are we going to build? And sometimes it's a
yeah,
combination of the two because depending on your complexity, for me, I always think with all the cloud and SaaS applications and products out there today, that that buy it is actually a really good starting point. And then you take what is available to me in the buy space. Can it fit my company and my profile? For a lot of
yeah,
people, it can, without a lot of customization. But then when you get the bigger the company that it's implemented at, I think the bigger the company, the more customization you're going to need, or you have to have internal staff, internal developers who can actually do that integration work, build it to your requirements, at least at some level of integration, which was ultimately what we ended up doing with this product. We
yeah.
integrated the old system into the front end of this system.
And I think there needed to be a lot more due diligence. There were a lot of assumptions that were made, like the business can adapt or will adapt, and this will meet our performance metrics, and because in the middle is that good, save what you have, improve that, or buy a new and change some things. We didn't. I don't think we ever asked any of those questions to our business, and uh, the performance metrics. I
And
think
maybe that
that
is a
would have been
good
nice.
place of like assumptions
Yeah.
can break you in success. I'm assuming
Yeah.
things that may or may not be true, and especially if I don't vet those out with my key stakeholders, those assumptions can break a project. If
Yeah.
for no other
I
reasons
think it
than the
was,
stakeholders don't feel heard.
well, again, I think it was a naivete of it's a technology. We're only replacing the underneath part. Well, that is that assumption. No, that was incorrect. We're not moving databases, which we'll talk about later. It wasn't a technology. It was they didn't have the ability to continue to do what we needed it to do. It was altering our business applications because of the limitations. So
Legacy
yeah, again,
environments.
lessons learned. Yeah, that right now it seems like that was a big, well, duh.
Yeah.
But it was, when you have people saying it's technology, saying it won't impact, or that kind of, you kind of have to go with it. I think seasoned now we don't because you and I are like, yeah, I'm not buying it because we have too many experiences that like, no, yeah,
I mean, I I did my own little project management system replacement, right? And I had things built into my little project management system that after the fact I moved to my new tool and I did it for cost reasons because I just didn't feel like I needed everything that I had cost wise. But it was still that migration from what I have to what I'm going to do now. And I lost functionality, I lost data, right? So change is
I,
always hard.
these lessons I learned early is what, because I always pay it. I'm an annoying person, and my wife will say this, and you can. I will ask a billion questions. I need to know how something works because in my mind, I can start, anticipating issues, and it hits me where our problem. But it annoys the hell out of people sometimes. You're like, it works
I,
this way. Well, I don't believe you. I want to know how it works.
I remember a very specific situation where I handed off a bunch of stuff to you at another job, and because I was going on to a different thing, and my key partner came up to me a couple months in and said, "This guy's driving me crazy." What am I? How do I get him off of my back? And I just looked at him. I said, promise 3 months, he'll drive you over the edge and then he'll know everything he needs to know. And he will be the best partner you ever had. And about 2 months after that, the same person came back to me and said, I just love working with Doug. He's awesome. I said, I told you. He'll drive you up the wall for 3 months.
Yeah, I can't help it. It drives Sherry nuts because she'll just do this. Well, why? Why don't you know? I don't know why. It's just something that my dad drove into me and my school teachers did. It's like you are responsible for this test. If you don't know it, ask a question, and it's just
Well,
blossomed from there. But I
I,
love to know how stuff works.
yeah,
I have
I,
to.
I, I knew at 5 years old when my mother said to me, and there was a commercial on television, and I didn't know what it was at 5 years old. And it was kind of an embarrassing thing, apparently, I asked, but I said, why do women do that at 5 years old? And my mother just looked at me. She goes, why are you always the kid that asks why?
Yeah,
I said, I don't
yeah.
know.
Oh, there my dad trying to be patient, like, I'm the parent, I'll whoop your. That's where they always ended up, because they'd be like, well, why? Well, why do I have to, why can't I do it this way? Why do I have mowing the grass? Because he would wake me up at some ungodly hour, like, Dad, why can't I do it at noon? Well, blah, 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 blah. Well, if the grass isn't great. And I just kept, like, finally I got just get out and mow the,
Just
profanity,
do what you're
profanity
told.
line.
Okay. At that point.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else you want to add on this one, Doug? Or I think we've put this one in
No,
the can.
again, and I will say this because not a whole lot of people understand or use it because they're afraid to. But humor, I swear to God, is probably the greatest gift a project can have. Because if you guys can laugh, and we've been through some of the most stressful, high impact projects, and we have the greatest time. And at least, laugh a lot. Don't be afraid to cut up once in a while or a lot.
Take it
It
seriously, but
survives.
not too seriously.
Yeah, yeah. Have some fun when you're on, 75 straight hours of calls. Just have some fun.
Hey, life is short. You
Show
got
up
to
with
enjoy.
Gandalf, a little Gandalf bearded, filter, beginning of the call.
The wizard. Awesome. Well, it was great talking to you
Yeah,
today, Doug, and really enjoyed the conversation. So, thanks to everybody for joining us on Resilient Foundations today and kind of getting some lowlights and failures and understanding what you can learn from even the bad situations. So, thanks
exactly.
very much. Yeah. And if you enjoyed
Talk
this
soon.
episode, if you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to subscribe and like.